rumors that Tony Khan could purchase New Japan, AEW WrestleDream Preview. What's next for those WWE released talent wrestlers and the most uncomfortable moments in wrestling history? That much and more with the gang. But Timekeeper, ring the bell.
Welcome to the And Still a Wrestling Podcast, your weekly podcast covering the latest in the world of professional wrestling.
Welcome into And Still a Wrestling Podcast. Kevin the Oracle, Drew the Authority, and myself, Morgan Big Casual. Maybe that's
Gentlemen,
what
how
I'll
are
go
you?
with now.
I'm doing good.
I hope you guys are doing great. And I wanted to get into this. You know, we only got an hour, so let's jump into this. One hour a week, we're going to talk about wrestling, if it will. And we've got a great topics for tonight and some things that we're going to do a little bit weird, I guess, at the end. So hopefully you enjoy this episode and let us know how you feel in the comments and what you'd like to hear more of or less of. We really appreciate the feedback from all the listeners out there. We want to start off with topic number one being the rumors around, well, really, this is like the breaking news that's out there right now. I wouldn't say breaking news because it's not really actually in stone, but the biggest rumor that's out there right now is that New Japan Pro Wrestling could be purchased by none other than the golden boy himself, Tony Khan, who looks to buy up another wrestling program. This time, honestly, be the biggest outside of the one he started himself, which, you know, he bankrolled himself with his dad. I want to get what the guys think about this. I have some thoughts about it. I think it's might be a very reasonable move, honestly, for my opinion. But guys, what are your thoughts on it when you first heard about it?
So, well, I'm cautiously optimistic. I think that from a catalog standpoint, if he really does the deal with Max subscriber series, he is going to have a hell of a catalog because he'll have Ring of Honor's back catalog, he'll have current day AEW's back catalog, and he'll have, I think it's nearly 30 years of New Japan footage, which he can stream on Max. So if that deal goes down, I think it's a great feather in Tony's cap. However, I do have concerns with Tony Khan owning 3 of the 4 possible competition to the WWE. The only one left that he hasn't bought up would be Impact, and I would consider them a distant 4th, if not 5th, in the indie scene.
Okay, first of all, it's like I had to sit here forever on Twitter to find out if this is actually a thing. Believe it or not, it's like, I know this sounds so WWE-ish, but it's like my thing is like I'm looking like, where's the news on this? And all I can find is the thing like, hey, Stephanie and Triple H might be getting a divorce. So that's apparently a thing for another day, I guess. It's like, so it's like, speaking of WWE, let's be honest. Is that not the most WWE thing you can do? It's like, oh, look, Tony Khan spending his money, buying up all the smaller territories until he's created one giant, territory. It's like,
yeah, I mean, he's not doing anything. Yeah. He's not doing anything different here. But I think that, again, my concern is if he was to buy New Japan, I would hope that he would just be the name on the CEO or the board and not actually have booking decisions, because all we're going to do is get another AEW, Ring of Honor, and then New Japan mix. We have a Tony style of booking, and I'd like New Japan to stay the way it is. I enjoy the New Japan product. So again, I think it's a positive in the fact that he could bolster his catalog, but I think that I am cautiously optimistic. I don't want to see a world in which Tony books New Japan.
Hey, cool. So this is all like still in rumor, area territory right now, right?
That's correct.
As far as we can see, yeah.
Yeah, cool. So let me throw my prediction out. Maybe it's more about them having an alliance with New Japan Pro Wrestling, and I'll say he doesn't buy New Japan. I say maybe he buys Impact and, works hand in hand with New Japan to basically create, turning AEW into basically New Japan's American front.
Drew, where you been for the last 2 years? We've had a working agreement with New Japan.
Yeah,
Hence
I know.
the whole
but like,
Forbidden Door pay-per-views.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying like we expand on that while he purchases up Impact Wrestling.
Yeah, I don't see that happen. But who knows? I didn't see him
We'll
buying
see.
New Japan up until a few hours ago. So yeah. All right.
Well, let's just say that that's still a rumor out there. One thing that I wanted to get your thoughts on with that, and maybe this will be the last thing here, and we can move on to the other things. But you know, a lot of people in the on Reddit and on Facebook, those are probably the last place you want to find like actual news. But we thought it was kind of interesting, at least to kind of give it a little bit of a run at the beginning here. But in the comment section on those sides, on those websites, you're looking at people saying, well, if he does purchase it, first of all, majority of people think it's not going to happen. And it's just a rumor, just something fun to talk about. But the people that do say, well, what if it is a possibility and go down that road? The first question is, can a non-American company or owner really do New Japan Pro Wrestling correctly? A lot of people say no. They would prefer New Japan to stay Japanese and not be as intermingled as it would be, as you mentioned, Kevin, if they were to come together and not be just a friendly partnership. If Tony Khan really took over, you would see cross promotion much more, and it would really kind of take away from the nature of what New Japan is. Do you agree, disagree?
So I see Tony Khan as having someone who has a giant set of Matchbox cars, and he gets to play with all the different Matchboxes. I think that I really he's a billionaire, so he gets to play with whatever toys he wants to play with. So what you had just mentioned is what I'm concerned with.
I'm more concerned about saying like, don't overextend yourself on this thing. Ring of Honor's just turned into like, it's basically AEW Dark. It's like, he already manages all of AEW, which is three television shows. He's managing the Jaguars. He's managing isn't they got a football team overseas as well? That I think they're involved with too. It's like, dude, it's like, I don't think it's like, I wonder, it's like, I don't think it's a good deal if he gets New Japan Pro Wrestling. I think that's too much on his plate. I think New Japan is fine the way it is. Even if he did purchase, I would sincerely hope he just leaves, the people that are in charge to let it run and just make money the way it's been making money.
Yep.
Which that said,
be able to access the tape library.
Yeah, but he's still
be able to access the tape library and move on.
Yeah, which reminds me, it's like, as long as I got Kev here, it's like, you think this is all happening because Antonio Inoki's not there anymore?
No, Antonio Inoki hadn't owned it for a number of years. In fact, I think it's sold twice since then. In fact, the last person that owned it, I thought, was American, if I'm not mistaken. I believe he was from New York, but I could be wrong on that. I know there was an American ownership for a short time. I'm not sure if that's currently still a person in charge.
Yeah, we're looking at you for that one. Hey, so back to Morgan. It's like, speaking of that, it's like we have a New Japan AEW pay-per-view up here, right?
Yeah, it's kind of ironic how that goes. And maybe it's just kind of trying to promote. Maybe this was a planned rumor to kind of promote the pay-per-view that's coming up. AEW, as many of you know, has expanded their pay-per-view slate this year, adding in what's called WrestleDream, which is going to be held on Sunday, October 1st, in honor of the man that you just mentioned, Antonio Inoki, on his 1-year anniversary of his passing. Tony Khan said that he called it WrestleDream because Inoki was wrestling's greatest dreamer. And, it seems like there's some debate over whether or not this is a good pay-per-view or not. I'm seeing some websites saying that they feel like this could be one of the worst or lowest attended and lowest watched pay-per-view since the pandemic. And some are saying that they feel like it is a good overall card, that people should just give it a chance. And I want to see what the guys think as well, because I know we're probably very torn on both sides of things. Again, the WrestleDream 2023 card from top to bottom, just to kind of go through it quick, and then we'll get it in more detail. Bryan Danielson, this one's very serious because, as we know, he's publicly mentioned he doesn't have a lot of time left. So he's going to be taking on Zack Sabre Jr., and then one of the premier matches of the night. And then you have Hangman Adam Page and Swerve Strickland. You have FTR versus Aussie Open for the AEW World Tag Team Championship match. Then you have Adam Cole, hopefully now back from injury and tweaking his ankle, and MJF, Better Than You, Bebe, versus Aussie Open for the AEW World Tag Team Championship match.
Wrong way. It's
Well, I'm not
Cole
doing
and
them in
MJF
order. I'm
against the
just doing them in
Righteous.
the list that I have. I'm just doing them in the list I have. But so Chris Jericho and the Golden Lovers, Kenny Omega and Kota Ibushi versus the Don Callis family, Konosuke Takeshita, Sammy Guevara, and Will Ospreay. You have Christian Cage and Darby Allin. And 2 out of 3 falls match for the AEW TNT Championship. Eddie Kingston versus Katsuyori Shibata in the Ring of Honor Championship and New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong Openweight Championship. So 2 belts on the line there. And then finally, really, after all that, the first female match, Kris Statlander versus Julia Hart. Julia Hart, interesting choice there. AEW's TBS Championship match. And then finally, Young Bucks versus the Guns versus Lucha Brothers versus Orange Cassidy and Hook. The winning team gets a future AEW World Tag Team Championship match, as we mentioned, the tag team champions up earlier of FTR for AEW on that side. So a pretty jam-packed match card. I feel like all of the stars on the AEW side are there. Considering this is like including New Japan Pro Wrestling, it seemed just from outside looking in, seems like there's not many New Japan wrestlers involved, or maybe I'm missing something.
Nope,
No.
I agree, and I'm slightly disappointed because of that. When he initially announced this, I thought we were going to get, let's say, a 50-50 or even a 60-40 split between New Japan and AEW, but this is like an 80-20 in tips of AEW. So I am slightly disappointed there. There are a couple of snoozers on this card that I think there are absolute gimmies as far as predictions. And there are a couple that I'm really looking forward to. I think the number one match I'm looking forward to is Shibata Kingston. I think it's going to be a fantastic match. Both of those guys are going to knock the shit out of each other. And that's the kind of smash mouth wrestling that I like.
You're right in the sense that, like, New Japan does not have a strong, presence on this card. If anything, it's full of guys that used to be in New Japan Pro Wrestling that AEW
Right.
picked up. That's
Right.
the best way to put it. It's like, again, I need, as I'm looking at the card, it's like, gonna ask you for some help here again, Kevin. It's like, Better Than You, Baby versus the Righteous. Who are the Righteous?
I was going to save that and ask Morgan because I knew he wasn't going to know. But I got to tell you, if I haven't watched the last week or two, I wouldn't know who they are either. This just shows you the short-sighted booking and also the fact that we're having too many pay-per-views too frequently. We don't have any credible challengers.
Wait a minute. So what you were saying earlier is they're not facing Aussie Open. I had it down twice on this.
Yeah. FTR.
So the website on thank you very much, WrestlingJunkie.com, for having the wrong thing twice. So it's Better Than You, Bebe versus the Righteous Ring of Honor Tag Team Championship match. A lot of belts on the line there. I'm the casual, so I have no idea who the Righteous is.
So basically, it's a guy who flicks his tongue like Gene Simmons, and the other guy snaps his finger and looks like Rob Zombie. That's about all I know about the Righteous.
Wow. Is that your sleeper match?
Yeah, I mean, if you can't predict this, then you probably shouldn't be watching pro wrestling.
Yeah, I'm thinking they retain the belts.
So this has that feel of 1991 WWF Superstars, where it's like, yep, here comes Cole and MJF facing random jobber tag team. Gotcha.
Do you feel like that Tony Khan does that too much, or do you think it's still a good balance?
I think we're starting to see the fact that he is booking himself into corners with some of these matches and the fact that we're having too many pay-per-views. Like I said, who's the Righteous? Did we know them a month ago? If you were watching Dark, you knew who they were. But if you weren't watching Dark, you had never heard of these guys. They are, if I'm not mistaken, former Ring of Honor employees, and they were a Ring of Honor team. But, no credibility here, none whatsoever.
Yeah, so we all know how that's going to pan out.
Yeah, I think that's where, Tony doesn't understand who he's losing. He's losing the guys like me with this kind of stuff. He may think it's awesome and amazing, and he's getting guys opportunities, and he's rewarding people for watching Dark and rewarding people for their loyalty with Ring of Honor. No, it's actually the opposite. I get turned off more seeing that, because I'm like, okay, there's a team that I really want to see and a team that I don't even know anything about. And, hey, maybe it turns out to the best wrestling match ever. And Tony Khan, somehow his talent does that. They outperform their expectations on almost every pay-per-view. Even the ones that have high expectations, it seems like they do well, outside of, the man we won't name. But, maybe they have a great match. And so I don't want to knock them too much. But on the other hand, I'm like, as a casual, is this making me buy? No, it's not making me buy.
Okay, first of all, you hit on a major, solid point about this, because when they say that this isn't going to be, that great of a pay-per-view, it's like we said the same thing about All Out, and that one turned out to be fantastic. But you hit on a major point and a major problem with AEW is AEW caters to the hardcore wrestling fan, and it doesn't cater to the casual fans very well. That is a problem Tony Khan kind of has with the company right now, is he's catering to those diehards that, love and watch, all the, pro wrestling that's outside WWE, and, it's, and want to like alternative from sports entertainment, or as I could just say the Meltzer crowd, but it's like it's like Tony has to do more to bring the casuals in and get them interested. And yeah, that is definitely a serious problem the company has. Because simply put, they're not buying tickets. And we see that in the ticket sales right now.
Well, Kevin mentioned this a couple of episodes back about how one thing you can't knock WWE for is that they cater on the other side of things. So, like, for example, I missed a couple of shows, but if you miss a couple of shows on WWE, you're going to get, short video, previews, like last time on, kind of stuff you get with Netflix or Disney Plus. And it actually works really well, because then I don't have this anxiety that, I can't jump back in because I don't remember what happened last week, or I missed what happened last week because life happened. I do feel like that WWE does very well with their little video packages leading into the match. Now, sometimes it can be a lot. If you're wanting to get to actual in-ring action, it can kind of seem like that takes forever to get to. But I can kind of see why they do it, because it gives you it forgives people like me, and also reduces that feeling like, oh, well, I missed the past 2 weeks, so I just need to give up altogether.
Yeah, and it's tough to cater to both. And I think that only 3 years in, I think that AEW is doing a good job, but they can always tighten the screws. And I'm borrowing Bubba Ray's analogy there, but I think that they can tighten a few things up. So the other match that I think is an easy prediction here, I don't see how Eddie Kingston's going to drop these belts so quickly, especially since he's a feel-good story, and it's a homegrown feel-good story. He's been around for a very long time. He has always been his own worst enemy. He lets his mouth get in the way. He lets his attitude get in the way. We know that 3 short years ago, he was selling his wrestling gear just to make his mortgage, and now his life has completely turned around. I think it's a feel-good story. I don't see Katsuyori Shibata beating him, but I think it's going to be a fantastic match. And typical of 2 out of 3 matches, each men will get 1 fall each, and then the deciding factor will probably be Eddie with an Huracan. At least I hope so, and that'll be our final there. FTR versus Aussie Open. If you asked me 2 weeks ago, I would have told you that I didn't think FTR would drop the belts before the end of the year. However, I think that to bring Aussie Open back to the forefront after getting kicked in the nuts by Better Than You Bye in 4.5 minutes, I think 5 minutes on a pre-show. I think to put them over, I think you need to make them solid and possibly transfer the championship here. We all know the Cash Wheeler's going to court here in 2 weeks. So who knows what's going to become of that. I don't think that it's a foregone conclusion the FTR goes over here. Drew?
Hey, about that is like, yeah, I would agree with you on the Aussie Open thing, but one of the things I did catch on Collision was I kind of got the vibe that it's like the Aussie Open might be losing their push and momentum to the Workhorsemen, who really went out there and made a statement that nobody watch their match from Collision, Morgan. It's like they come out there and nobody knows who they are. By the end of the match, that crowd got behind them and saw holy cow, these guys are good.
So shame on you. Eli Drake was trained by George South, who's right up here in Greenville, South Carolina, and he is a semi-pro bowler. So these are two things that I knew about them, Drew. How did you not know this?
About the Workhorsemen?
Yeah, man. Yeah, both true facts. So George South, who's got the wrestling school in Greenville, trained Eli Drake. And Eli Drake has bowled 6 perfect games in his life as a semi-pro bowler. So again, other than that, if you didn't watch BTE, you really don't know who Eli Drake is. There's truth there. There's no doubt about it. And then who was the other guy? Tony, I forget what his last name is. It used to be Eli Drake, Peter Avalon, and the Italian guy, tall dude. But that whole Workhorseman group broke down. So then you got 2 makeshift guys. They called them Workhorsemen, and they had a fantastic match on Collision. I will agree.
Well, I mean, Eli Drake, I just did a Google search of that. I know exactly who he is.
Very good.
Am I mixing my Drakes?
Nope.
I mean, Eli Drake is LA Knight now, according to Google search. Yeah. I'm looking at the pay-per-view, and I got a question for you guys. Okay, so I want to know, why should I be interested in this match? Well, let's say, let's try to sell it on me, okay? So the first thing is, I know why I should be interested in a Bryan Danielson match. I don't know much about Zack Sabre Jr. So, is he going to make this match better, worse? Is he worth a watch? Why will it be fun for me to watch this match?
I'll let Kevin have this one.
Bro, do you know what joint manipulation is?
Joint manipulation sounds very painful.
And that's exactly what he's going to do to Bryan Danielson. He is a very old school British wrestler who will take you down and bend your elbow in ways that it's not meant to be bent. He has some amazing moves that you only see him do because it's just not practiced that way anymore. But his whole gimmick is he is all about joint manipulation, take you down to the mat and grind on you. He's almost like a UFC kind of guy, and he's very good. He's nothing to look at. He's got a popped collar, but he's very, very good.
Take you down the mat and grind on you?
Yes, sir.
No wonder it's a pay-per-view.
Dude, it's going to be like that. Those two together is going to be a pretty good quality match.
You can't do those for free.
We also have to make sure that we watch what joint manipulation is done, and the fact that he's going to stay away from Bryan Danielson's right arm, I would assume, because that is his injured arm. So any type of joint manipulation will likely be done on the left side. So that's an interesting point to watch on Sunday's pay-per-view, boys.
All right, so
what other match?
The other one that you said that you were really looking forward to, which is Shibata versus Kingston. Now, you said you felt like he's not going to lose the belts, but as you mentioned, Kingston has that kind of the crowd behind him right now because of his story, and it's so real. I don't know much about Shibata. How will they work well together in this match?
Absolutely. So Shibata is a New Japan star who I think it was 10 years ago, had a match and then had he collapsed in the back, and he suffered from was it an aneurysm?
It was something.
Like a pulmonary
I
aneurysm.
want to say it might have been an aneurysm. It nearly killed him. I remember that
right.
much.
Yeah, and he was told he could never wrestle again. So go back a year and a half ago in New Japan Wrestle Kingdom, he was allowed to go out and have, I think it was a 2 or a 5 minute exhibition match. And then on their next pay-per-view, he's supposed to have an exhibition match, and he went into business for himself and had a full match. Well, that got the ire of New Japan up, and I believe he left New Japan. He's now employed by Tony under the Ring of Honor or AEW banner, so he no longer is exclusive to New Japan. But he is someone to keep your eye on. Again, he is not a high flyer. He is super technical, not a lot of emotion, can't speak well, but damn can he go. He is I won't say pound for pound. He's very good. I think you're going to really enjoy his style. It's very fast. It's very realistic.
He's a fighter. That's the best way to put him. He is a full-blown fighter.
Would you, and I haven't watched, and forgive me guys, like I haven't watched a bunch of New Japan stuff. So would you say New Japan is like not really about the promo and the mic work? It's really more about feeling like, you know, a combat sport?
New Japan is 100% work rate. That's where
gotcha.
strong style originated from.
Okay.
It was believable. It's called the king of sport for a reason. They go. I mean, there are some matches that you would swear were UFC and not a professional wrestling match. So, and in fact, when we get into, and we could probably segue, when we get into the most uncomfortable moments in pro wrestling history, I've got at least one match from New Japan in the 1990s that you're going to be like, ooh, I can't believe that happened. We'll talk about that in just a few moments.
Yeah, we still got some time to keep going on the WrestleDream thing. My thing about this is, I'm buying this Zack Sabre Jr. and Bryan Danielson. You got me there. I'm buying Eddie Kingston, Hangman Adam Page, and Swerve Strickland. I think those two guys are great wrestlers. I don't like that Swerve Strickland seems to lose all the time, but
the real
winner that's going to change.
So we think it's going to change on this one.
I think Swerve's going to go over here.
I said the real winner of this match is going to be Prince Nana. Prince Nana's getting super over right now, and it's great.
He just signed a new contract.
That is true. He's getting a lot of publicity over on X and other social media sites for sure.
When I drive.
Yep.
That's what
I'm talking about. Okay, quick though, Morgan. It's like, I can tell you right now, it's like, you know, it's the matches too. It's like, you know, selling you this one's like, it shouldn't be that hard to sell you on Jericho and the Golden Lovers versus Takesha, Guevara, and Ospreay.
Nope. I'm sold. I want to watch that one.
There.
Yeah, I want to watch that one. I mean, you know, Kenny Omega is my favorite wrestler, so I think that's going to be great. And to your point, Drew, I don't have any problem with the Young Bucks and the Guns and the Lucha Bros and the Orange Cassidy and the Hook. I don't have a problem with that, 15-person match either. So I like that one a lot. Honestly, I really hate to say this, but it just seems like Statlander Hart really sticks out as the go to the bathroom match.
Listen, Julia Hart is neither super hot nor super flexible like CJ Perry.
I kind of debate on the,
I mean, I think she's pretty flexible.
Is it bad me saying like Julia Hart is like, yeah, I want to say she's hot, but I also feel weird and creepy about that because she's only like
like your little sister way.
Yeah, she is. And you know what? In the real life, we've seen her in person. She seems like a very creepy person, obviously, in her character. And I know that's just a character. I don't know her outside of her character,
cool.
but I know before she had the House of Black character, she seemed like a nice person and she's trying her best. But when you see her in person, I mean, she can't be 80 pounds soaking wet, as they say. And Chris Statlander, it just doesn't fit to me. The two wrestlers seem like if they got into a real fight, I mean, Hart would be broken in half. She's just so small compared to Statlander, who I think is, one of the better all-around wrestlers on AEW for the women's side of things. So it just seems odd here and I hate to pick on the women because that's really the only one on the card. So it is kind of weird that you have this as the only one and this is what you got.
The only counterpoint I have here is Julia Hart is on a 20-some-odd winning streak, and that's the reason why she's going up against Statlander. She's been cleaning up in Collision. So if you look at it from a systematic wins, losses, she probably is a valid contender. But to your point, we're supposed to suspend disbelief when, like you said, one girl is 80 pounds soaking wet and the other one's a healthy 150 pounds. So I don't see much happening here. I see Statlander bumping a bit. I probably see Hart getting in some offense. And I will say that I think I like her character a lot better than the cheerleader character she was playing. I think she's getting into this character a lot more. And I've enjoyed her in this character. But yeah, I don't see any revelations happening here at all.
On the flip side of that, though, you do have Rio, who is like, she knows she's, tiny, and she embraces it and tries to do crazy stuff. And, that actually works. So, you can make it work if you're very undersized.
Sure you can, without a doubt. I mean, we've seen younger, smaller men go up against bigger men, right? Shit, didn't we see Hornswoggle? Didn't we see Hornswoggle in a match with Paul White, the Giant? I think at one point. So
I'm sure that's happened.
Anything can happen, boys. Anything can happen.
Which, by the way, my daughter is now watching the Big Show on Netflix for the first time ever, and she's like, "Dad, tell me about the Big Show." And I'm like showing her pictures of the Big Show and showing her kind of his moves, and then explain to her that he used to be the Giant, and explaining to her like he's a massive human being. He's not just like Dad, he's like 3 times bigger than Dad, maybe even more than 3 times bigger than Dad. But you know what the funny thing is? It actually was a pretty good show. I've seen it walking through. And it was only like one episode or one season, and then maybe 2 seasons, maybe just one. And she's like, I want to see more of this because it's just like lighthearted and fun. And but maybe AEW, maybe Tony Khan can think about that and throw him a bone and get another sitcom out there with the fake laughing.
He's Captain Insano now. Make that show.
Yeah, you could do that. Yeah. Captain Insano now. He's always been Captain Insano, right?
Right.
So fun fact about Paul White, he actually had a career as a college basketball career prior to being a pro wrestler. Of course, his knees were bad, so he got into pro wrestling. Fun fact.
A lot of them do that. Didn't Nash and El Gigante, because I refuse to call him Elegante. That just terrible name. He was anything but elegant.
All right, so let's move on to the list of AEW wrestlers, or not AEW, excuse me, the list of WWE wrestlers who were released recently, and part of the changes after Vince McMahon was gone. There were a couple of big names out there that we can talk about. Some that were, I guess, more surprising than others as things go. I guess the one that you can really put up there's a couple that were kind of the headliners, but one of the ones that I think that you could put up there as the headliner of the group that is no longer with WWE and has some ties to AEW with his family is Dolph Ziggler. He's a guy who's been with WWE for many, many, many years. Seemed to have kind of, as some experts out there say, seemed to have kind of cashed it in and just been coasting. And as I believe Booker T mentioned, kind of really didn't see it fit to change his persona or his character much over the years, just kind of banking it, as Booker T, I'll paraphrase that, mentioned. But guys, was Dolph Ziggler the top guy that you were shocked by? Were you shocked by that? Do you believe he's the top guy on the list that was released, or was there maybe someone else that we should be looking at as like, oh, wow, this is the headliner?
Oh, no, the headliner is without a doubt Matt Riddle. But when you mentioned Dolph, it's like, I want to remind you all, it's like, Kev, you've been watching wrestling since 2001. It's like, do you remember when they had all those wrestlers on, what was that game show, The Weakest Link, back in 2001, and like Rock made fun of the fact that like Booker T never got any trivia answers right, and it's like was like, what's the capital of Washington? It's like, I know the answer to that. It's Abraham Lincoln, sucker. It's like,
No, I don't recall that.
It's been a thing over the years. Like, I've always kind of considered, it's like, I love Booker T, but his opinion kind of reveals he's not all that bright about things. And so when he said, like, I think he's been just kind of Dolph's been coasting over the years, my mind went to, like, that's a really weird way of saying he's done everything the company's ever asked him to do and with no complaints whatsoever.
Yeah, the reason why Dolph was doing what he was doing is because that's what he was told to do. He had been 2-time former heavyweight champ, if I'm not mistaken, but he was prone to injury. So for Booker T to say he was just coasting, didn't want to repackage himself, Dolph doesn't have that ability to make that call. The leadership does. Your Vince McMahon's, your Nick Khan's, your Triple H, they're the ones who make those decisions. I see Miz on the level of I see Dolph on the level of the Miz. Yeah, on the level of the Miz. He did everything they asked of him. He was always good at what he was asked to do. And for whatever reason, if you go back 8, 10, 12 years ago, someone didn't see something in him long term, and it's unfortunate. My only gripe with Dolph is he oversells. Every bump he takes looks like it killed him, but that's my only complaint with him.
But that's the biggest problem.
Where is he? From a where is he going to land? I think he's a solid fit for either Impact or AEW, and I think it just comes down to a matter of where can he make the most influence. I think he's got 2, maybe 3 good years left in him, and I think he can be a help in the back as well as talent to get the younger kids over.
You and I talked about this briefly off air too. It's like I want to cover about he had the idea, and I kind of dug it. The thought of, like, Shelton Benjamin, who's one of the release people, could probably do great things in New Japan Pro Wrestling. And the more you mentioned about that, the more I'm like, yeah, I could see that being a thing and being really fun to watch for them.
So, I thought that was good too until I heard Billy Ray say something today. Shelton Benjamin would be an amazing fit for the BCC. He's a legit badass.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I got to admit, Bully had a good point. I can kind of see that.
You think these guys are interested in the level of bleeding they would need to do to be a part of AEW? Because it seems like that's kind of like what you got to do on this promotion is bleed a lot.
I think that's up to the personal performer. I don't necessarily say Tony Khan says go out there and gig. I think if the match calls for it, like you had a match involving a chain the other night. So yes, Tony Stark or Ricky Starks is going to bleed. Moxley just bleeds because he's got so much scar tissue, and he gigs on almost every match. I don't think blood is such a bad thing. I know, Morgan, you're kind of not a big fan of seeing it all the time, and I get that.
I don't mind it. It's just every match gets kind of. I mean, it seems like. It's less believable when you do it majority of the big matches.
Yes, but you grew up in the WWE, and that wasn't the WWE. If you watch Southern wrestling, it was every match.
Ricky Morton was real good at it.
The reason why all the magazines had bloody covers is because that's what sold.
So if we're talking about the top 3, ranking the top 3 talent that were released, I mentioned Dolph Ziggler, but you guys both kind of quickly corrected me and said Matt Riddle. On my list, Matt Riddle was after the list was made. So he is also released. No more RK Bro, for better or worse, I guess. So considering this a WWE, Drew, thoughts on that one? Is he the top dog that was released there? Were you shocked by that?
Yeah, he's definitely the biggest name released, but I hate, this sounds a little negative, but like Dolph might be the better prospect on this one because, I mean, when Riddle got released here, he's kind of had his fair share of issues behind the scenes lately. And for that reason, it's like, I don't know if he's somebody Tony Khan would be like super interested in picking up right now. He's not, I wouldn't say he's Punk level issues and stuff, but he's definitely got stuff going on behind the scenes that are not like working in his favor right now.
So I say he goes to New Japan. Let him get his teeth kicked in, and let him kick some teeth in. I think he's best suited there. Japan loves an American, and I think that he would be very well suited and draw some serious money over there. Plus, I'm not sure that they are that as worried about his drug advocacies for marijuana as some of the countries in the States are. So that's my opinion on that.
I will say as a closing thing on that, it's like I tried to kind of telegraph that like when Endeavor merged with WWE to make TKO, and Dana White has now a kind of an equal footing with that group like Vince McMahon does. I was like, Dana White is not a fan of that man. So it's like his days probably were numbered right there. It's like, because it's like as soon as he got released, you could see all the clips on there showing that Dana White doesn't like this guy around him or want him around, has a real problem with him. And I'm sure he probably got into somebody's ear about, hey, this guy's bad news. We need to get rid of him.
Yeah, listen, Riddle made a living on Evolve before he made it to the WWE. He'll do indies again without a problem, I'm sure. So I think Shelton Benjamin, I don't think Shelton Benjamin has that much of a shelf life either. I think it would be a good 1 to 2, maybe 3 years, but I just don't want to see them do what they've done with so many other stars and just relegate them to like B shows and or just job them out. Unfortunately, I've got a bad taste with what they did to Jay Lethal. I think that he's just abused in the system at this point. But yeah, Shelton Benjamin, I can take him or leave him. Of everybody that was released, I think the biggest upside is Ziggler, in my opinion. You can do so much with him in, let's say, an AEW, especially with his brother. You can tag him up. You can make him a brother tag team. You can make him an agent in the back. There's many things you can do with him.
Now, I'm looking up what you said earlier about Riddle, and I'm assuming you're talking about cannabis. And Japan has a zero tolerance policy on.
Oh, well, then he doesn't belong there either then.
Oh, then he's not going to New Japan.
So Get this, fellas. I'm just looking. I mean, this is just Google. So take it for what it is. But zero tolerance policy on substance possession or sell. If you possess it with no intent to sell, 7 years prison.
So he won't be going to New Japan.
No, he's not going there.
If you possess it with intent to sell, 10 years prison.
The man's got a magic mushroom for a tattoo, if I'm not mistaken, doesn't he?
I don't know if he'll be doing that.
Yeah, pretty much, right?
So we got to think of another option for him.
Like I said, Impact Wrestling it is, I guess.
I think he does indies and falls into obscurity.
There's always NWA.
Listen, he could also go to Bellator, right?
Yeah,
he could go back to an Ultimate Fighting type company.
What about Elias?
Oh man, like Elias, I think he would be a strong. He has a lot of ups, value.
Listen.
I mean, it's like he's proven he can get over, man.
Listen, Drew. Listen. The people that are listening to this right now don't understand. Drew, you believe what you want to believe. Don't let Kevin's shaking head disapproval. Don't let the Oracle try to change your mind. You're the authority here. You have your opinion. You stick to it. Okay. I don't care if Kevin's over there in the background shaking his head.
It's
Ezekiel is where the money's at.
Oh,
it's all Ezekiel. See, you knew see, now he was shaking his head. Now he agrees. The money's in Ezekiel.
The money is in Ezekiel versus Elias. I think the money's in both of them. I mean,
I don't need Elias. I just want Ezekiel.
The dude knows how to get over with the crowd.
I liked Elias. I liked Ezekiel for what little I saw. And the funny thing was, in the last 2 days, he's come out and said publicly, Ezekiel and Elias are the same person, which I thought was hilarious. Absolutely hilarious.
And you know what? When he used to do the Who Wants to Walk with Elias, I can't lie. I used to chant that in the living room. Like, you just kind of got used to it.
It was great.
You got like, you expected it and you wanted it. And, it wasn't going to be the best, but it was kind of fun,
All I can say is, like, if you need proof,
I agree. Even when he was in NXT, he did the dripper gimmick.
Yeah, which is the prototype for Elias.
Sorry, Drew, I cut you off.
I was like, yeah, the Drifter, like I was
Yeah,
just saying,
and
it's
I enjoyed that.
for Elias.
So strip it back, do it again.
So
Yep.
does he go to AEW?
I'd like to say so. Either that or Impact.
What about
He's a good fit either.
what about Emma? You know, she actually posted a couple of days ago that it was a dream come true to be able to wrestle at the Elimination Chamber in Perth, and then just recently said, "Oh, never mind, I've got released."
No.
She said it
that
48
all
minutes
in a
after.
couple hours.
Less
oh
than
man,
an
that's
hour,
got to be
boys.
pretty embarrassing.
48 minutes.
Yeah, like she was like, "Oh
48
man,
minutes
this is
later,
my
she
dream
said
to
it.
do this." Oh, never mind, I got fired.
Even though I think that she could totally thrive in AEW. I mean, they need women who are experienced, and I think she could.
She spent some time
hard
before
pass.
getting rehired from WWE back in Impact Wrestling. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised that ends up being a nice landing spot for her.
Totally agree. I think that's where she goes.
So you would pass on AEW for her, Kevin?
Yes. Yep.
What's
I
your
don't think we need another. Go ahead. Go ahead.
You got
Drew.
enough people on that roster you don't know what to do with. It's like let her shine. She'll be able to put on good matches with Trinity Fatu over there in Impact. I say it's a win. Just go to Impact. You'll be fine there.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
I agree.
the problem as we keep talking about it. I mean, we want, as Kevin mentioned earlier in the show, we want Tony Khan to be that Hot Wheels collector, but then we realize he's got very limited time and his shows are, well, at least the Saturday shows, in a terrible spot right now with college football. And, his Wednesday show and Friday show is really all that's left. And then you're stuck on YouTube again and you go into obscurity. And the casual fan like myself doesn't ever see you again, and they think that you've been retired or something. All right. So final segment of the night. This is something Kevin dreamed up. Maybe he's trying to be like Antonio Inoki here, dreaming up new things. This is Kevin's WrestleDream, if you will. He wants to go over the most uncomfortable moments in wrestling history. You got a plan. I'll let you take it over and kind of.
If I can do a brief synopsis, what I see this for what it is. It's like my man Morgan over here is a casual who may not have seen some things in wrestling, may have missed a few moments. And we know one thing in particular: you don't like blood.
Yeah.
So Kevin, take it away.
It's not that I don't like it. Again, it's just that I don't like it overused.
So to that point, I don't think any of my selections have blood per se.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do, how this is going to work is I am going to speak to what the video is. As I'm speaking, I'm going to send you the link, and then I will have you queue up the specific timeline. And we're going to get your reaction live on the episode. So with that said, my first selection is from the early 1990s. It goes back to ECW. It is the reason why Chris Benoit was given the nickname the Crippler. And it is when he dumped Sabu on his head and Sabu broke his neck. You can go ahead and watch the full clip there.
Oh, ow, oh. That was pain. Oh, you know what? I was very skeptical of whether or not you were going to be able to provide me with a video that I had never seen. That, God, that. So did he ever wrestle again after that? I mean,
Yep.
I think I've seen him on AEW. Have I not?
Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah. So it was obviously not a severe neck break, but a technical broken neck. And the man wrestled not that long after. He just took a bad bump. Chris put him up to do like a back body drop, and Sabu kind of lost his footing in midair and just came straight down on his neck and shoulder. And you get what you see there. And that's why Chris Benoit was given the name the Crippler.
Wow. That was why he was given the name the Crippler? Really?
Yes, sir.
I had no idea.
That is the origination of the Crippler story.
I just assumed the Crippler without even knowing the backstory. And do they even are you allowed to do this move anymore? And what's it called?
It was just a botched move. He went in to do like a back body drop, and Sabu just did not. There was a miscommunication or whatever have you. and Sabu just did not take the move properly. You see Sabu try to protect himself at the last moment, but it's too late.
And the you got to love the fans in the background. I mean, I don't know where this is. This looks like
it's the ECW Arena, Philadelphia.
Okay, gotcha. So this is early 90s?
94, 95, 93, 94, 95.
Even back then, you see the fans just kind of cringe. I think I can even see Kevin there right on the railing.
I was not there for this, but you know what? One of my other potential selections was going to be Mass Transit. But whereas I know you don't like blood, I was actually there live for that.
Well, you already made me watch that one.
Exactly. I won't make you relive that. So that is my first.
What this move is, because he hooks his leg up, and it's almost, I don't know what you'd call it, and then Chris Benoit obviously looks like he doesn't care, and Sabu is just screaming obscenities when he rolls out of the ring because he's probably in a ton of pain. But at least it didn't paralyze the man. My gosh.
So it looks to be a botched fisherman buster, but Benoit goes straight up instead of backwards.
Right.
And I think it was just a miscommunication. Sabu didn't know what he was supposed to be taking, and Chris didn't know what he was supposed to be delivering. And it was just one of those rare miscommunications between two pro wrestlers that wound up in a potential life-threatening position. So that's my first, and I will say that I have three, and these are not in any particular order. So with that,
okay,
Drew, what's your first?
Can I throw one in here? So this one plays into AEW context. If I think I got the right one queued up, I'm sending it your way. It's like, this is a one from WCW where the gimmick was Goldberg was chasing after somebody in the limo. And the whole thing is he smashes out the first two windows, which are supposed to be propped windows. So he busts through them pretty quickly. You'll see he goes to the third window, struggles, and as they put it, real glass, cry me a river. You'll know it goes wrong when he slams his hands on the hood, and you see how bad this went wrong.
Gosh, this is just pure Goldberg for sure. He gets in these rages where he makes the dumbest decisions ever. And yeah, I see the first couple. Oh my gosh. I see the first couple of windows go through like you said, just so easy. And it just happens to be a white limo, a white Crown Vic limo. And he slams, after he goes through all the windows on the left-hand side, he slams his forearm on the hood, and blood just goes everywhere.
Yeah, it's a spread splotch. Like, they had to rush him to the ER immediately because he almost lost his hand on that.
Oh, my goodness. And you know what? I'm not even surprised with Goldberg because he gets into these things where he's not thinking and he's just going at it. Pure adrenaline, and over the years had some botches over the years and done some things that head scratching.
So yeah, the moral of the story of that one is that, my friend, is why you don't use real glass.
Well, he didn't stick to the script. He was supposed to hit the first two, but then he's like, you know what? I'm going to go bust everything up. That was a good one. I like them both so far. Definitely learning now today I was years old when I learned why the Crippler is named the Crippler. That's still number one for me so far.
It's one of my specialties. I enlighten the masses. So my next treat for you, this went down at the Tennessee Fairgrounds. I'd like to introduce you to a professional wrestler by the name of Gypsy Joe. Gypsy Joe, at the time of this footage, is 69 years young.
69.
His opponent is New Jack, and I will say rest in peace to both of these gentlemen. I'm going to send you the video. I want you to specifically look at 6 minutes and 55 seconds. I want you to cue it to that, and then I'll continue to explain. Here's your link and the timeline. You're looking for 6 minutes, 55 seconds. Gypsy Joe was never a mainstream professional wrestler, but had been a wrestler since he was in his 20s. He typically wrestled at the Columbia, Tennessee fairgrounds on a regular basis, and he was a quote-unquote local hero. We all know that Joe is a no bullshit kind of guy. Within the first minute, Gypsy Joe decides to stiff New Jack with a headbutt and splits Jack's nose open. Jack tries to do business with Gypsy Joe, who again is 69 years old, to the point where the match breaks down and Joe takes a baseball bat and basically Carlton fists his fucking head with the baseball bat. And that's your 6 minute and 55 second to 7 minute and 15 minutes. Go ahead and enjoy that.
Wow. Yeah. He honestly, I'm surprised this guy didn't get arrested for this.
He was charged with assault, believe it or not. True story. The match never ended. It was never a contest. There were people in the crowd that were involved pulling the two apart. He actually whips him with barbed wire at one point, but there is that section at 6 minutes, 55 seconds to 7 minutes, 15 seconds, where he makes contact with the baseball bat to Joe's head twice, and it is not a pulled shot. He is swinging like he's Babe Ruth.
Yeah.
If you listen, there is a king to the bat. He's out on his feet.
This guy's obviously much older, and it just looks bad. It looks as bad as you're describing it. I mean, he's swinging full speed with like a barbed wire wrapped baseball bat against this guy's back, and then basically just does a knee lunge, throwing him over. And there are people in the crowd, and this is not a big crowd by any means. I mean, this is like,
when you say crowd, there's about 50 people there.
And they're all horrified.
Honestly, and you're right, Drew. They're all horrified. And there's even one lady that's like throwing her purse at him, trying to get him to stop, and then he wants to throw a chair at her. Wow. And when that happened, I realized this guy is off his rocker, man. He must be mentally ill. Obviously I know that he is, I don't know if I would say popular in wrestling. I've heard his name many times, but this is a guy that I'm surprised that he ever even got into wrestling. Other than ECW, nobody else would want this guy.
Yeah,
if you go down the rabbit hole, he actually narrates a video in which he stabs another wrestler in the middle of a match with a legit knife. The guy's like, I want to get color. New Jack's like, I'll give you color. And he stabs him in the gut twice. And Joe actually calls the video on YouTube as he's doing it. So with that said, that is my second. I hope you enjoyed that. Drew, what do you got?
Give me a second.
First of all, before we finish that one, like this is literally the intermission at the church bingo, and he almost kills a 69-year-old man. Okay.
Yeah, there's really no nice way for me to put this. It's like you're getting the abridged version of that match, because if you sit through the whole match, like, it is uncomfortable. And
it's like watching.
Lets you know it's uncomfortable. And like Kevin
it's
pointed
like
out,
watching somebody's grandfather. Yeah, it's like watching someone's grandfather get beat down for a pack of cigarettes.
We could do an entire episode on this one and just showing Morgan is like times New Jack attempted murder in a ring.
Yeah.
You don't mean it in like sarcastic. We mean like no legitimate attempted murder.
Wow. Okay. We've gotten two extremes here. We've gotten a botch, actual wrestling move, and then we've got attempted murder, and then we've got just being Goldberg. And so what's next?
I'm just throwing you a good old classic, another one out of WCW. It's like, you've never seen it, you got to witness it with the rest of us. Watch Sid break his leg, yo.
Okay. All right. I have seen this one, and I hate watching people break their leg in half like that. Oh,
yep.
Man, it's one of those things you don't want to watch it, but you watch it, and then you watch it again, and then you want to watch it a third time.
Can we get the takeaway from this one, which is, for no reason whatsoever should a guy of Sid's size get on that second rope, jump off, and try to do a mid-air big boot like that. So landing on one leg. No. I don't know.
Should have stretched. Should have stretched, bro. Should have stretched.
Oh God!
Oh man, it's even worse in the comments. Talk about a heel turn.
By the way, that was basically the end of Sid's career right there.
Talk about a heel turn. His foot sideways.
Nice. Well, I love that the video actually says Sid breaks his leg and oversells it. It's like, there ain't no overselling what is happening here.
Yeah. Oh, man. Gosh, I hate seeing broken legs, but you know what? You can't, once you see it once, you can't stop.
All right. So my third selection.
I was so skeptical about this segment. Hopefully it's good on podcast because it's hilarious.
My third choice. I'm going to introduce you to 1990 New Japan versus All Japan, the original reason for big, meaty men slapping meat. I'm going to introduce you to Stan Hansen versus Big Van Vader. And when two men get together and they both work a stiff match, one of them needs to lighten up. During this match, Stan Hansen yells to Vader, lighten up, lighten up. Vader does not. Stan Hansen takes his thumb and dislocates Big Van Vader's eye out of its socket. Go ahead and enjoy that.
Oh my goodness. I mean, they're like throwing haymakers at each other.
Before the match started, Stan Hansen threw his cowbell and it hit Vader in the nose and broke his nose. Vader said after this match he had to have his orbital bone restructured and set because he had cracked it in numerous places. But essentially, Hansen got his thumb underneath the eye and hyperextended the eye out of the socket. So when you see Vader push on his eyelid, he's actually holding his eyeball in, and he finished the match.
Well, see, here's my thing. If the guy tells you to lighten up and you don't listen, I mean, at that point, it kind of goes back to the other part where the other guy was just 69 years old and couldn't defend himself. But if you got a guy that can defend himself, I mean, and he's telling you to lighten up, I mean, I honestly don't blame the guy because, you know, that's lack of mutual respect if you're not, you know, if you're trying to just hurt somebody just for the sake of doing so. I heard that Vader was kind of that way though over the years, just very brutal.
Yes. Again, that New Japan style or Japanese style in general was extremely stiff. And that match I've only seen obviously on videotape. The quality is not very good. And what I sent you there is just a snippet, but you actually see Vader take his mask off and like hold his eye. And there's only a couple of times in which you actually see it. But he did finish that match. So I know I said I was going to do three. Guy?
I mean, is this after his WWE? Is this after Vader is basically done with WWE or WWF at the time?
This is before he was even in WCW.
Oh wow!
So before WCW, before WWE. So this is 1990, I think, is when that match took place.
Yeah, it's right before he goes to WCW.
Yeah.
So the other guy, did the Hansen guy, does he have a career after this?
Oh, yeah. He's a Hall of Famer in WWE.
He sure is. Stan the Lariat Hansen, yeah. Yep. Just again, a big burly Texan dude who played the Texan gimmick. There is a hilarious story with Missy Hyatt breaking into the locker room and Stan Hansen spitting chaw on her on live TV while she's trying to do like a live ringside kind of situation. And she talks about how disgusting, and it wasn't worked. He legit basically spit his chaw out on her on live TV. So that was pretty classic. Now, I know we said we we're going to do three. Drew, I know you have one more to go, but I have a consolation that I'd like to send after Drew finishes his.
All right.
No, you go ahead because you gave me an idea for if I could find this video real quick. So it's like,
we got an impromptu last video from Drew here.
If I can find this one real quick, you just gave me an idea.
So this one.
Now that you're telling me more about Hansen, like I respect the guy even more. I mean, this is a guy that's a Hall of Famer, and like you said, if he's that big Texan guy that's a stiff neck, just like Vader's stiff, if he tells you, hey, chill out, like, you know, where's the respect there? If you're not doing it, then you know what? Hey, get your eyeball stuck out.
Another interesting fact. Leon White's name in professional football was Baby Bull, which I think is kind of funny. So I chose this next video just to lighten the mood, but I really think that after you watch this, you'll understand why this man's career was dead after this happened. And of course, I'm speaking of none other than the Shockmaster.
Well, I mean, I feel like I've seen the Shockmaster.
Oh,
I don't know much. I don't know much about the whole thing. They're showing Ric Flair, Sting.
So funny note about
British
that.
Bulldog,
If you look in the background, that is Fifi the maid, who is Ric Flair's current wife today.
You've got Booker T, Harlem Heat there, Stevie Ray. So
This
all the
just
guys
shows
that I
you
grew
why-
up as a kid.
That's right. This just shows you why we script things. If you listen to the schmoz that they're yelling at, it's like the three of us trying to talk over each other right now. You can't understand a damn thing. And then you got the British Bulldog, who's basically a mush mouth, but they're going to introduce the Shockmaster. He's
With
going
his,
to come out
with his braids looking ridiculous, braided hair.
Yes.
Hey,
And then the maid in the background doing nothing.
Yep. Yeah, that is Fifi the maid.
I turned the volume down
this was
because
the
I
death.
don't want it to pick up on the mics, but
Sure. This was the death of Fred Ottman's career. Funny thing is, this person speaking is actually Ole Anderson doing the voice in the back, while Fred Ottman just he had one job, wear the helmet. And you obviously know what
I don't
happened.
think he's got there yet.
And if you listen closely, you can hear Sid Vicious laugh and go, "Oh God."
I mean, he falls down, his helmet falls off. I mean,
Well, it exposes the fact that it was Tugboat 6 months ago in WWE.
But
that was the gaff.
We're sitting here with a first of all, how is this ever going to work anyways? It's a stormtrooper helmet with glitter. I mean, talk about copyright infringement here.
This is like 1988, 89. It didn't matter. This was
they
the
didn't
good
care
old
about
days. Look at
copyright
Surfer
back then.
Sting.
Well,
Absolutely
guess what?
not.
Disney cares now.
They sure do. So I thought I'd lighten it up after seeing a couple of extreme situations. So I hope you enjoyed that.
He's got glitter all over his belly.
Before I get to that, I got to mention that story actually, if you've never heard, ends with the Shockmaster walking up to gorilla position where Dusty Rhodes is, slams the helmet on the set and says, "I funked that up, didn't I?" And Dusty had to be removed and taken back because he couldn't breathe from laughing.
I just watched it again. They got the fire and everything going up. He doesn't even get 1 foot out the wall. His whole body falls forward.
They supposedly practiced it. When they practiced it, it wasn't fully framed. Well, someone didn't tell the crew not to build the bottom half of the wall. So what he trips over is actually a 2x4 down the bottom that wasn't there during practice, that he doesn't know is there. It wasn't there in practice. So when he walked out, he expected to walk right through the wall like Kool-Aid Man. Well, unfortunately, there's a 2x4 there, pal, and that doesn't work for me.
Legend has it David Crockett's responsible for that.
Plus, I mean, the helmet's just got drilled holes in it, so you really can't see very well in it. Man,
So
you know
he
what? That's somebody's dad or grandpa, just.
Yep.
And that was the end of his career. He had been Typhoon, and he had been Tugboat prior to that.
Oh, man. Rest in peace, your career.
Okay,
Shockmaster.
so I posted you one last one for the road here if you dare watch. It's like, this one I can only describe as is a 2002 promo between The Undertaker and Tommy Dreamer.
All right, I guess I'm going to have to turn the volume up for this.
And,
oh, no.
Oh,
I feel like I remember this. You're going to drink my tobacco spit.
Yep. That's exactly what's going to happen here, pal.
He says, "I'm not asking you, I'm telling you." And the guy's like, "No, I'm not doing this." Oh, this is pretty awkward, man.
This happened
it
on
doesn't look
WWE.
like it's fake either. It looks.
Tommy has a
watch for the Undertaker's reaction when it goes down too.
Yeah, Tommy has a reputation for doing things like this.
Now say what, Kevin?
Tommy has a reputation for doing things like this. He just told a story a couple weeks ago about dried dog shit on his foot when he went to bed just the other night. And Beulah's like, "You got some mud on you." He reaches down and just dried dog shit on his foot. He's not the most clean dude.
Are you telling me that he willingly did this?
Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
He does
Okay.
things to get
All right.
a rise out of the boys.
Where he's smelling it, and Undertaker is, at least in his face, he kind of looks like he's laughing, but he almost looks like he's in disbelief that this is really going to happen.
I think at some point, even Undertaker spits his tobacco into the cup.
Oh,
he puts
yeah.
his chew in there.
Oh, and he downs it. Oh, God.
Look at Undertaker's reaction. Undertaker looks like he's about to vomit right there. Like, even he wasn't ready for this.
And Tommy is like, "That's not bad." And Tommy's like, "That's not bad taste, bro. That is crazy." And then, of course, Undertaker's, just wails him.
But yeah, that's the thing. Have fun with that, and it's like, have fun with that being in your nightmares.
I'm gonna need some Pepto-Bismol after watching that one. That was pretty gross.
And see, I grossed him out without the use of blood.
Whew, man, we have gone all over the place with this. I feel very enlightened, though. From I feel like I've been educated. If you haven't seen any of those, I encourage you, and you're listening, go check them out, because
Except
that
for the Tommy
was
Dreamer Undertaker one. I don't encourage you see that.
Yeah, probably skip that one. Yeah,
please don't.
Well, fellas, honestly, the most uncomfortable moments in wrestling history was actually very entertaining. Hopefully, it was fun to at least listen to, because it was crazy to watch, and very educational, actually, too. So, so I hope you enjoyed this episode of And Still a Wrestling Podcast.
CJ Perry, slide into my DMs.